What's up, guys?
Yeah, it was continued.
Welcome back, welcome back. Oh, man. Court appearance. Nick Reiner. I saw Alan Jackson walking in. I'll try to fix a thumbnail while we're streaming, but I saw him walking in. I'm gonna see if I have to see if I can find the video. I had to shut down the computer, so let me see. I forgot what station. Maybe it was this one. Caught a glimpse. This guy was walking in. Some people said, where were the signs of Nick Reiner? Where were the signs of trouble and struggle? I think this was around here somewhere. I was walking in.
No, I don't have to.
Oh, here it is. Oh, man. Let me show you guys. Oh, wait. Where am I getting audio from? I'm going to show you. Let me show you. Looks like they have mics out there, too. I don't know if they're going to have a press conference or maybe Alan Jackson is going to talk, maybe. But check this out. Oh, this guy's excited. Smiling from ear to ear. Oh, he's loving it. Look at it. Oh. Well, he's not smiling, but inside he's smiling. Man, look at this. All the notoriety. Big, huge case representing Nick Reiner. Wow. On top of the world, man. Now, they're saying that there is cameras inside of the courtroom, but supposedly the judge doesn't want it to be live streamed. And so I'm hearing that this video that's going to come out after it, we're going to be able to see it. Let me confirm that. Here it is. Here it is. Yeah, they're saying, I think do audio check. Stay on this link. Nick Reiner hearing will be fed back to us on this feed when the hearing is over. Okay, judge is not allowing live streaming. Okay.
So I'm outside right now. Okay, but then they come out. So I'm here with the rest of them.
I also thought that maybe we can listen into a little bit of Fani Willis. That's rewind it back. Let's see. I wanted to hear what this was about today of Fani. The last time I watched her, it was crazy. Well, I feel like it was over a year ago or something. And they said she was a hostile witness. I was like, oh, shit.
Chairman Cowsert is unable to be here this morning. He had a medical procedure late last week, and doctors.
Fulton DA testifying on Trump indictment. Okay.
Chairman, all those approved, please. Those are all clear on your aisle, please, or in the middle of your row, please scoot over. We do have overflow in room 125 here in the Capitol building for any of you that want to avail. Senate committee hearing. This is not a courtroom. There is no judge in the room. We will adjudicate the meeting today per the Senate rules and Mason's manual. We have the Secretary of the Senate available to advise us if there's any considerations. Governor Barnes, you are here as counsel for D.A. Willis, is that correct?
How you guys doing, man? I had to do some install.
No, I didn't say.
Good news is I'm here. I didn't mess up the computer. I didn't blow anything up. I didn't destroy the computer, so I'm able to come back.
The 18 other.
Let's fast forward a little bit. I just want to get to the start.
Statement I'd like to include in the record.
Sure, if you want to pass that around to us, be happy to make that as part of the record.
And I'm doing that because I was prohibited from giving a statement.
Yeah, so again, this is going to be analogous. I know it's been a while since you've been in the state Senate. You've had an illustrious career since then. As you know, committee testimony is different than courtroom procedures, and there's generally not opening statements in Senate committee testimony.
I've
and that
never
was.
known an investigative committee that did not allow opening statements.
We will proceed with the testimony, and if either one of you and Madam DA, is that the preferred title? Is how you'd like to refer to you?
Either District Attorney Willis or Madam DA.
Perfect. We'll go with either one of those. Thank you for being here today. Please do pull that microphone closer or lean forward when you speak. I'll try to get the volume adjusted so that everyone can hear it.
I doubt anyone will have trouble hearing me.
Fair enough. Just love if you could take a minute and walk us through your career history. I know that you have a 30-year legal history. If you could just tell the committee your path to becoming the district attorney in Fulton County.
Well, I went to the best university in the nation, Howard University, matriculated through there in 3.5 years and graduated December of '92, although I walked in May of 1993. I then came down to Georgia because I was admitted to one of the top 25 law schools in the country, Emory University School of Law. While at Emory University School of Law, for the first time in Emory's history, I won the Frederick Douglass Moot Court Competition, which is a national competition put on by the Black Law Students Association, successfully matriculated through, took the Georgia bar because the Olympics was that year. That was the last year that you could take the bar while still in law school. So during my last semester of law school, I took the bar and passed on the first try. Then became a lawyer. I worked for a small law firm with Alvin Kendall. Alvin Kendall has a great knack for picking talent because at that law firm at the time was myself and the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who will be a great candidate for governor of this state and is now running for office. Also, Teresa Mann, who is a judge in the City of Atlanta Court, and another lawyer by the name of Carl Touchtone. We represented people in both criminal and civil cases. I worked there for a small time. I then left that law firm and opened up my own law practice where I practiced both juvenile law, criminal law, did some family stuff. Young practitioner. I did that out of Douglas County, Georgia. But I represented people in the entire metro area during that time. Got married, had 2 children, became a solicitor, needed a kind of a more calm life. So I went to work for Raines Carter, who's been the longest standing solicitor, I think, in the country at this point. Worked for him for some time, applied to become a district attorney, worked there approximately 16 years, tried every type of case you can imagine, but I was really a murder prosecutor. That's what I do best. But also at that time tried the longest case in Georgia's history, which is the Atlanta Public Schools case, a RICO case. That's how I became acquainted with John Floyd, because he taught me RICO inside and out, and taught me how you can use that to bring criminals to justice, which I've done throughout my career successfully. Worked there, then decided to leave to run for office. Ran for judge, came up 49%, I believe, is the percentage of the vote that I won. Actually went to a Republican strategist. He told me, because I went to a runoff, Republicans will not vote for you. And I said, why? I've had a history of representing this state. I've done so successfully. I'm known as a prosecutor. He said, you're black and female. I said, I don't believe that to be true. I don't think that's the state of the nation. Who knew? He was right and I was wrong. I lost that election, but that was God's plan. Because after that,
hold on. What's this? The judge? We need some audio. Hold up. What's going on here? Hold up. They don't have audio on this for some reason. So, not Court TV, Law and Crime said we're not going to be able to see the inside live. No, we have to wait till after and then we'll see. But they're they're showing the inside right now. No audio for some reason. Maybe they're not supposed to be showing it. I want to see. What happened? Oh, they switched off. I don't think they're supposed to show the inside right now. Somebody's in trouble. Oh, they're showing the inside. We just need audio. Hold on. Let me see if I can find something else. It's Alan Jackson, baby. Action Jackson. Jackson. Whatever. Is there audio here? Let me see.
to come back for
They have one, yeah.
Thank you. At this time, I'll take a waiver, speedy arraignment waiver from your client. Mr. Reiner, do you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment? Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7th, 2026. Do you waive your right?
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We didn't even see him though. Let me rewind it back. I want to see what happened here. It's not much.
Constitutional and statutory right. This time, I'll take a waiver, speedy arraignment waiver from your client. Mr. Reiner, do you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment? Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver?
I join, Your
The
Honor.
court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that his counsel joins in that waiver. Matter set January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department. Bail to stand at no bail. Anything further on that case?
No bail.
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
The only thing is, so they didn't show him on camera though? Let's see. Damn, that shit was so quick.
Do you have a constitutional
Where is he?
and statutory right to a waiver from your client? Mr. Reiner, do you have a constitutional
Were they looking at an invisible person? Oh, they're standing in front of him. I guess we can't see him from that angle. I think I'm guessing he's right here. Unless they're talking to an invisible person. I guess they're standing right in front of him, blocking the view.
and statutory right?
Yeah, you can't see him. She's blocking. What the hell?
To a speedy arraignment. Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver?
I join, Your
The
Honor.
court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that his counsel joins in that waiver. Matter set January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department. Bail to stand at no bail. Anything further on that case?
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, maybe we catch him walking out or something.
They're rolling right now.
Rolling again.
Wow. All
This is
that.
Nick Reiner, that's case number 25 CJC F08098.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson, along with Caleb Mason and Elizabeth Little, and Mortimer Jackson, went on behalf of Mr. Reiner, who's currently present in court in custody.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. W. Bailey for the people. Jonathan Chung for the people, Your Honor.
Thank you. And counsel, how would you like to proceed today?
Your Honor, if we could, I would like to ask for a continuance of the arraignment. I don't want to get it complete at this juncture. It's too early. We've coordinated with counsel from the DA's office, and January 7th, with the court's permission, will be a convenient date for us to come back for potential arraignment.
Thank you. At this time, I'll take a waiver, speedy arraignment waiver from your client.
Thank you.
Mr. Reiner, do you have a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy arraignment? Your counsel is requesting that your arraignment be continued to January 7, 2026. Do you waive your right to a speedy arraignment so that your arraignment can be heard on January 7, 2026? And does counsel join in the waiver?
I join, Your
The
Honor.
court finds that the defendant has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy arraignment, and that his counsel joins in that waiver. Matter set January 7, 2026 for arraignment in this department. Bail to stand at no bail. Anything further on that case?
Not by the defense, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, we are.
This is Nick Reiner, that's case number 25.
What are they doing? Just playing it over and over?
CJC.
Fast forward.
Early. If we could, I would like to
One more time.
Just playing this shit over and over. The Matrix.
No worries. Let me know now because I'm about to leave.
Yeah, Maybe they'll say something outside. Oh, that's it, man.
I just went up there and there's a jungle of people. Like, yeah, don't play it again.
Your Honor, he'll be bailing for the people.
Bro,
For the people, Your Honor.
Thank you. And counsel, how would you
how many times you gonna play it over and over and over, man? Okay, we're done with them playing it over and over. They're all outside. Do they still have the mic set up? Where's the mic? I don't think Jackson's gonna say anything outside, though, man. What's your thing? ¿Quéreme? What's your quéreme? People out there, man. So you got a glimpse of a strand of hair, I guess. If you're lucky, you catch him outside. But I think they probably brought him in through the back. I don't think they brought him to the front. Just saw Alan Jackson coming through the front. I knew there wasn't going to be much. It's probably I figured to announce the charges, but he asked for a continuance till January. I forgot the date, 17 or something. This dope ass thumbnail I'm making right now. Nah, man, we need somebody that is up close. Let's see. Reuters. Well, they do have a camera outside of the jail, too. Maybe they're trying to hope to catch a glimpse. Spoiled riding kid. Good for nothing. In other news, Fani Willis is super irritated today, having to testify in front of the GA Senate, which should surprise no one. Yeah, the last time was interesting and spicy. Like a hot tamale. I guess maybe we can listen a little bit more to her while we wait. If there's going to be anything outside of here, I don't know. What the?
The honor of representing the Judicial Qualifications Commission. I'm one of the only black lawyers to ever be able to do that in the state of Georgia, where I prosecuted judges who had done something wrong. And so that was a great honor of mine. Richard Hyde was one of the people that I won. I'm the first woman to serve as district attorney in.
So,
All numbers that I give today should be approximations. You should not hold me to exacts.
certainly we'll do so on these questions for sure. Of those employees, about how many of those are attorneys?
Half.
About 150 attorneys. How many investigators?
65.
Okay. And how many paralegals?
I don't know, about another 70 or so professionals. Some of that is VWAP, some of that is administrators, some of that is illegal assistants. I'm not going to be able to guess at these numbers.
Sure. The state pays the minimum salary for all district attorneys and assistant DAs, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Can you walk us through the pay structure?
The state pays for my office about 25.
Let's just look at a snippet here first. They're saying she went off. Let's just take a look at the snippet first. Because this thing, I think, is 2 hours plus long.
I can tell you is that I
Screen.
I don't review those documents, so you're asking me to look at documents that I haven't for the first time. What I can tell you is that I only allowed Mr. Wade to bill 160 hours a week, and then Mr. Wade would be the first one in the office making sure that my staff arrived. He corrected their behavior. They thought that 8:30 meant 8:30. He taught them that 8:30 means 7:45. He got there before them. He left after him. He taught them how to do this case, and he was a leader to that team and a public servant. And for that, him like me has been threatened thousands of times. You want something to investigate as a legislature? Investigate how many times they've called me the N-word. Why don't you investigate that? Why don't you investigate them writing on my house? Why don't you investigate the fact that my house has been swatted? If you want something to do with your time that makes sense, and you can use all this in your campaign ad, you attacked Fani Willis. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
I refer you to the screen.
Oh my gosh. It's always spicy when she's having a hearing.
5 ADAs, they're woefully underpaid. The salary that the state paid is a joke right now. If you want to look at some legislation, you should look at paying DAs across this country more money, because they do not make enough money, and it is very hard for people to recruit DAs at the state pay. So for those 20 or so some lawyers that work at state pay, I do one of two things as incentives. The first thing I do is the ones that work in-house, I give them supplements that the county pays, because the pay is so low and really just an embarrassment to think that we pay public servants at that rate. Another incentive I offer to some other very seasoned ADAs that are further along in their career that are my state paid employees, I let them work 95% remotely, and all they do is indict cases for my office. The rest of the lawyers paid by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office are in fact paid by the county. But you should note here that I am a state employee. I am not a county employee. I represent the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. The Fulton County DA is really slang.
Great. So give me a range then of those ADAs, including the supplement. What's the salary range of
Probably
those
the
ADAs?
lowest salary of any DA that works for me is 85, and the highest might be around 200.
Okay.
Again, don't hold me to exacts.
Sure. Okay. You were elected in 2020. We talked about that. You had a transition process in between the election and when you were sworn in. Can you walk us through what that process looked like?
It was not a very good one. Myself and the former district attorney never had a conversation. We still have never had a conversation. But while I was still on my personal time, not yet being paid by the state of Georgia, I interviewed every attorney and investigator of the office and some of the other staff, because I wanted to decide who I was going to keep and who I was not going to keep. So I did that during that time period. I also had some committee members where I got some advice on things that needed to be priorities for the office as I took office. So I got very esteemed members of the Fulton County and the greater community to kind of advise me. I believe in diversity, so it was a diverse group. If you do studies on diversity, although some of you are against it, you will realize that the companies that do the best employ diversity. And so I employed diversity in that committee, and I've employed diversity in my staff because I represent a diverse community.
Who was a part of that committee?
I don't remember all the names, and I'm not going to guess at it.
What names do you remember?
Oh, my goodness. Lee Dupree's husband, William Dupree, was on that committee. There was another anchor, and I'm embarrassed to say that was an African-American female. I'm not sure. I want to say Mayor Franklin may have been on the committee, but I can't remember exactly. There were about 15 to 20 people. That's been some time ago now.
The interviews that you referenced with the existing staff as you were kind of determining whether they would stay, who participated in those interviews with you?
It would be different people each day. Attorney Gabe Banks was one of the attorneys that did some of the interviews. He wasn't able to do all, of course, because he had an active and thriving law practice at the time. Jeff DeSantis did some of the interviews with me. Daisha Young did some of the interviews with me. People would come in and out based on their schedules. My deputy of operations now, Dexter Bond, did some of those interviews with me. Mr. Nathan Wade had a thriving practice at the time as well. He would come in and out and do some of the interviews. I was at every interview, but other people could only commit, so much of their time. They each did as much as they could. And that should not be the total list. That's what I can recall quickly right offhand. So don't take that as that was every person. I may have missed somebody that assisted me in that, and they'll have to blame it on my head, not my heart.
Okay. Who was a part of the team that made the decisions on who you would keep and who you would go? What was the consultation process after the interview, and how many approximately, if I can ask you this question a second time, if you want to answer the first one, but I'm trying to get to how many people did you retain from the former DA's team, and then how many people were brought in that were new?
I don't remember. I might have fired 50 or 60 people, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
The AJC did an article on she fired people, to which I told Fulton County I was going to only bring the best and the brightest. So I was always confused as to why that was a surprise.
Was there a lead on your transition team?
I was the lead. I was the DA.
Okay. Was there another person that you consulted with more than the others?
No.
I believe Mr. Wade said under testimony that he was a part of over 90% of these meetings or decisions. Do you recall that being an approximate accurate statement as to his involvement?
I can't speak to any other person's testimony, so I'm not going to ever comment on someone's testimony if he testified to such.
This lady is Fani Willis, and we watched a previous hearing with her, and I thought it was really entertaining. I don't know how entertaining this one is. I mean, I saw some clips now that it got fiery. But she's the Fulton County District Attorney in Georgia, best known for leading the prosecution in the high-profile 2020 election interference case against President Trump and his allies. In August 2023, Willis indicted Trump and 18 others under Georgia's anti-racketeering RICO law, alleging a conspiracy to overturn Trump's 2020 election. In early 2024, allegations emerged that Willis had a romantic relationship with Nathan Wade, a special prosecutor she hired to lead the case. Defense attorneys argued that this created conflict of interest and an appearance of impropriety. A trial judge initially ruled Willis could stay on the case if Wade resigned. Lovers quarrel. Which he did in March 2024. However, due to the Georgia Court of Appeals reversed in late 2024, disqualifying Willis and her entire office to the significant appearance of impropriety. The Georgia Supreme Court declined to hear Willis's appeal in September 2025, upholding the disqualification. So they're pissed. They're not happy. The case was reassigned to a new independent prosecutor in November 2025, who ultimately dropped all charges later that month, effectively ending the prosecution. Current situation today. Willis is testifying before a special Georgia State Senate committee investigating her conduct in the Trump prosecution, including the hiring of Wade and related spending. She initially resisted subpoenas but agreed to appear voluntarily and has been described as contentious in some reports, with Willis defending her office's actions amid questions about the case's costs and decisions.
You're going to need to show it to me. You'll have to forgive me. I don't really trust you. So I'll have to
Trust
see
motherfuckers.
that particular
Do you
testimony.
recall Mr.
But I
Wade being-
do.
Well, wait just a
Do you-
minute. She's got a right to finish her answer. You don't have a right to cut her off.
That's incorrect, Governor. Thank you.
It is
I'll
not.
be completing answers, so sorry.
Oh!
So we should get that straight from the
Was Mr. Wade part of, would
Mama's love.
you say, more than half
Get
of
it
the
right.
interviews that you conducted?
Yes, mother.
Would you say it was more than 75% of the
I'm
interviews
not
you
going to guess
conducted?
at numbers. He was definitely more than half.
And what percentage of decisions, was the same percentage of decisions that he was a part of?
I ultimately made every decision. I take wise counsel from a group of people. So I took wise counsel from him. I took wise counsel from Deputy Bond. Ultimately, I made the decision on who stayed and who went.
Was Mr. Wade paid for this transition work?
None of them were paid. It was all volunteer work. It was wanting to make sure that the region was safe. So people volunteered their time to make sure that we had the best and the brightest representing Fulton County and that this community stayed safe. And every person who did it for free.
Thank you. Part of one of the things you did when you came into office was you formed this new anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Can you walk us through the decision process to stand that unit up, if that replaced any other units, and who was a part of that unit once it was stood up?
And I'm actually not sure we called it the anti-corruption unit when we first took over. So when I became the district attorney, Paul Howard had 101 police brutality cases, many that went back to years, maybe to 2009. People in the community were very upset. It was both unfair to the law enforcement officers and to the community that decisions were not made. And so I knew that one of the things that I was going to have to do was to make sure that every case got looked at and was evaluated. And so I was looking for attorneys to do that. I'm not sure if that's what we called it at first, because I think we called it the Civil Rights Unit, in fact. When we first opened it, I think it was the Civil Rights Unit. At some point, I go to visit other huge district attorneys' offices that have kind of the same kind of struggles that I have as a major metro area. I went to visit the Houston District Attorney's office at that time, and in that office they had divided cases, and I thought it was a brilliant way to do business. And so I think that's the point that I then formed a civil rights unit, which would only deal with police brutality, and an anti-corruption unit. So I think when we first started that it was called the Civil Rights Unit.
Okay, how many people were part of that unit once you got it fully operational?
Well, it depends. You know, the county has, in my opinion, stolen people from me, so we can't do the job as effectively as needs to be done. I've had as many as, it varies. It has varied.
Mandy, thank you for the 10. She does not like white people, and I personally think she has something to hide with her being spicy. It's always the poor me, poor bean. Yeah, that first one was really, I remember, I feel like, I don't know how long ago it was, but I was like, holy crap, this woman's something else.
Because we had an anti-corruption
Things have backfired
unit,
on
a
her,
civil rights
it
unit.
seems.
So it's varied.
Can you give us a range?
Varied, baby. Let's see what it looks like.
It really depends on who you're calling the anti-corruption unit. I've probably not had more than 2 lawyers in that unit, maybe 3 at any given time, an investigator or 2, and a legal assistant. They may have been doing double duty somewhere else.
And you entered into a contract with Chris Campbell to do some taint work as a part of that unit, is that correct?
That would be the civil rights unit.
It sounds like they were somewhat interchangeable from what you just said. You said that it was called
No,
the Civil Rights Unit when it
because
started.
The civil rights unit may have encompassed everything at first, and then it ultimately becomes police brutality cases. And so what Mr. Campbell was, when the police take a statement, I know you're not an attorney, but there's an issue called garrity. And what happens is government employees, mostly we're talking about law enforcement officers, they will make a statement to the police, but that statement won't be Mirandized. There's all kinds of legal rules around it. I can't be privy to those statements. I shouldn't have them. Sometimes I think the police almost put them in there intentionally, and so they'll be intertwined in statements and reports. And so what he was hired to do is to redact. So once that I got a file from the GBI when somebody had been shot by an officer, I never read that. That way we were never tainted. That's why we use that word, by never seeing that. And so yes, He was hired. He had been, I believe my recollection is he had been a former law enforcement officer, and he was a lawyer. I thought he was great for that work.
And Terrence Bradley was involved in that work.
He had been a former
well, correct?
probation officer and an attorney. That's one of the reasons that I thought that they would do outstanding at it, because they had long histories in the law enforcement community and lawyers.
Was Mr. Wade?
I have lawyers now currently doing that work.
Was Mr. Wade involved with the taint work?
No.
Mr. Wade, Bradley, and Campbell were law partners. Is that correct at the time?
Loosely is what I understand. I can't tell you about the design of, I can't tell you the design of his firm. I think more so what happened is they shared office space and cost or something, but I don't know. I shouldn't speak to that or speculate to it.
Did you place anyone in charge of the anti-corruption unit, or did everyone that worked for there report directly to you?
I mean, ultimately everyone reports directly to me, but the anti-corruption unit, so when it was a civil rights unit, yes, it had a lawyer that was over it. His name is Brian Watkins. He is a lawyer that's been practicing law longer than I, and at first he had everything until we realized there was so much volume of work, because it doesn't just do this kind of work. It's not just police brutality now, right? Now it's police lied, or it's an elected official did something wrong. It just became too much. Once we stood up these units and my county understood we were doing these kind of things, fortunately or unfortunately, the office started to get referrals, and so it just grew.
How many cases has this unit brought to trial approximately?
Oh, I couldn't tell you over the years, but we brought some to trial, especially these police brutality cases. I couldn't tell you exactly, so I'm not going to speculate.
Okay.
It's not as many as like my major crimes unit, but I can tell you that the anti-corruption and the civil rights unit, they cost me the most money because of the experts that are needed when you are trying a police case.
How much money would you estimate that you spend a year on that unit?
I can't, and I'm not.
You can't, you're not what, I'm sorry?
I'm not going to speculate to it. I can't estimate how much.
Okay. Is that something you could provide for the committee?
I don't know that I can. What happens is I have a professional services budget, and my top deputies of certain units, so my ED over major crimes, if he needs an expert, he can hire one. For instance, if you all want to look into legislation, look into properly funding your GBI. The GBI does not have enough scientific experts. This is not a criticism of the GBI. The scientists that are there are excellent. I want that to be noted that I said that. The scientists that are there are excellent, but they do not have enough experts. So in year one, when I become the DA, they tell me, and I have an email that proves it, we can't test all your ballistics evidence. We don't have enough. So I have to go into my budget, more than $100,000, I can tell you that. I think it's been about that annually, and hire private scientists to do that ballistics work. Now, I got the names of those scientists from the GBI, but also my deputy, Mr. Watkins, over civil rights, if he needs an expert, he knows that he can get one. If my ED over major crimes needs an expert, they can get one. My domestic violence expert, if they need a domestic violence expert, they can get one. And so it all comes out of this professional services budget that I both pay attorneys that come in and work as special prosecutors, and that I pay professional witnesses that we have to hire to do our work.
So Mr. Watkins was in charge by title, or was it more so by function that he was in charge of the unit?
I don't understand your question.
Did he have a title of director of the anti-corruption unit, or was he just a person that everyone knew would make the calls within the unit?
He was the deputy of the civil rights unit.
Okay.
He remains the deputy of the civil rights unit. At some point, the civil rights unit became civil rights and anti-corruption.
Do you use those terms interchangeably now?
I do not use them interchangeably. I have one deputy over anti-corruption and one deputy over civil rights.
Who's the current deputy over anti-corruption?
Tanya Boykin.
Who is the first one?
Sonia Allen. She is now the district attorney of Cobb County. She had a great DA from Fulton endorse her, and she won.
What was Mr. Wade's role in the anti-corruption unit?
He didn't have a role in the anti-corruption unit.
The election interference case, what unit did it fall under?
I called it the election team.
Okay. When Mr. Wade was he hired solely to focus on to work on the selection team, or did he do other work within your office?
I don't remember. I think there were times where I'd bring in some of my senior personnel and ask them, you know, what's your thought on this case or these facts. I always involve wise counsel. I'm sure he was in some of those meetings.
Would you classify Mr. Wade as senior personnel and as been part of your team?
Would I classify him as senior? So he was a special prosecutor. He never worked for me as an employee. What I would call him is a seasoned lawyer. 25 years, first African-American lawyer to ever serve Cobb County as a municipal court judge. What I would call him is a lawyer with a distinguished resume.
Okay. When did you begin to consider whether to bring charges in response to the 2020 presidential election in Georgia?
Don't answer that. That's a deliberative privilege. Don't answer that. I instruct you not to answer.
Don't answer that. Quiet.
Is it true that part of your transition team was involved in the process of interviewing people before you entered office to lead the investigation into the 2020 presidential election?
I'd like to answer that.
Go right ahead. You only take my advice sometimes. Anyway, go ahead.
That's really an ignorant question. And if you understand what the word ignorant means, it means the lack of knowledge. If you recall the facts, I was already district attorney when this all came to light. So it's factually impossible.
You were district attorney when what came to light?
When Raffensperger went on Good Morning America or whatever show he went on. I was already district attorney, so what you ask is a factual impossibility. Now, I know they've gotten black folks confused. They said I was running for office, saying I was going to prosecute the President of the United States, but that's what we call a lie.
Okay. I would like
Take
to...
your advice from here on out, okay?
Yep.
What else y'all got? That's it.
If you take a look at the screen for me, if you will.
What's this Michigan's
This is from Mr. Wade's deposition to members of Jim Jordan's committee. He was asked for the search committee. You said that began when D.A. Willis took office on January 1, 2021. Is that correct? Yes. And there was outreach to you to be part of the search committee prior to January 2021, January 1, 2021. Absolutely. When did that start? Sometime after the election, but prior to her taking office. Okay, so between the election, you're referring to November 2020 election. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And so when you had conversations with individuals, you said on multiple occasions, you said no, and you turned down the position. Who were those conversations with? They were with the district attorney.
So I think you're confusing facts. We've already had a long discussion about I interviewed everybody at the DA's office, and I interviewed other people to come and work at the district attorney's office. And as I told you, I did that on my free time before I became DA. But I had no way of knowing that these criminals were going to commit a crime. And that did not come to light until January of 2021 when I'm actually the DA. So it is a factual impossibility, like I already told you. I think that that is misinterpreted. He's absolutely correct. We looked for talent for the district attorney's office before I became the DA. I didn't wait till the day I took office to look for talent that would represent my office. But I was unable to look for talent for a case that didn't exist before I took office. It's factually impossible. It's common sense. You don't need to be a lawyer.
I'm going to read you some additional testimony. I'll try to put it on the screen.
You can read me as much as you want, but
I will. Thank you, Madam DA.
Woo! Damn. Imagine being married to her, being the side piece. I tell you to shut
I
up.
did not intend to have to get into this here. What was when Mr. Wade says that there was an interview on line 13, as you'll see here, this is prior to you entering office. What were you interviewing him for?
I didn't interview him prior to him entering office. He had a thriving law practice. Even when he ends up being offered the position, he doesn't want it.
Now, so it's your testimony today that you and Mr. Wade did not have any conversations prior to you taking office relative to an investigation into the 2020 election.
Don't answer that. That is a deliberative privilege of what goes on in a district attorney's mind in the process of...
She wasn't district attorney.
She was.
Prior to being sworn in, she was district attorney?
No, she was not, but you asked...
So I'll return to my question. Prior to you being sworn in as district attorney, is it your testimony today that you did not have any conversation with Mr. Wade about investigating the 2020 election?
It's a dumbass question.
I know it is, but go ahead and tell it.
So it's a dumbass question.
Because it occurred after she took office, but...
I didn't know that he was going to commit a crime prior to me taking office. Like, factually, it's impossible.
Okay, thank you. Would you agree with the statement? Actually, I'll skip that question. When did you decide to hire, outside of your office, a special assistant district attorney for this election case?
Oh, Lord. So when I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. I have to take you back. Can you hear me?
It's a little. I was going to try to turn you up if you don't like moving forward.
When I became the district attorney of Fulton County, the office was in absolute chaos. And I mean every level of chaos. On the ground, the carpet was molded and there were holes in it, and it was disgusting, a disgusting environment. There were boxes in offices, some to where you couldn't open the door. I remember walking through the office before. I told you I'd fired 50 or 60, I don't know exactly how many employees that I felt were unqualified to do this work. That doesn't mean they were bad people, but they were unqualified for the positions that they held. There were 18,000, write that down, 18,000 unindicted cases that went back 6 or 7 years that I was looking at. Not to mention another, 10,000 indicted cases in the system. Now, some that the judges had hid on judicial hold, but they were still there. So the office was in absolute chaos. And then I'm in the office I came in that Saturday, so that would have been day one. That was the day that I walked through the office. And I'm literally in the office that Monday or Tuesday, I can't recall now what day it is. And there's this phone call and the Secretary of State saying, oh, the proper venue to investigate this might be Fulton County. And so my priority became, and this is important too, there were 200 and something murders that had been sitting for years, families that had been waiting for justice for years. And so when I come to be the district attorney, my first responsibility is just getting the office properly set up. In fact, one of the most important roles I held up that I tried to find was the head of the civil rights lawyer. So when Brian Watkins walked into my office and actually interviewed to come there, because he was not with the old administration, that was like a gift from God, that I had a lawyer that had enough experience and would be talented enough and ethical enough and have the integrity to do this work. But my primary job was getting the entire office set up. So I immediately do things like set up a murder backlog project. I put Mike Carlson and Michael Sprinkle in charge of that. We're going to get every family's going to get an answer. They may not like the answer. The answer may be we can't prosecute this, but we're not going to sit with cases. We got to make decisions on these cases. And it took us years to get through that, but we did. And I'm happy to sit here and announce to you every one of those 18,000 cases, a decision got made on to include those 101 police cases I talked about, as well as the 46,100 and I think 36 cases that came in January 1st, 2021 till December 31st of 2024. So while people tell these lies about the DA ain't been working, I want you to find a DA working as hard as me.
My question was,
What the hell?
when did you decide to hire outside counsel, a special assistant district attorney, for the election interference case?
When it became obvious that this case would take so much investigation to learn the truth, and that I would need people that could focus on that. And although I had talent in the office that was being developed, each and every member of my staff had a priority. See, this is the most important case to you. Let me tell you what the most important case was to me. When I walked in the office, there had been 2 black children that had been killed, Sequoia Turner and Kennedy Maxwell. Those were the two most important cases to me as the DA. And I needed to make sure that those families got justice, but the cases didn't come with a bow on them. In fact, one of the cases was particularly not done properly. And so my priority became making sure I had the talent to make sure we got all of those cases done. If you're wondering, both those men are doing life right now for taking those children from us.
Certainly aware of the case and the autonomous zone and everything that happened back in that tragic time frame. So definitely appreciate those murderers being behind bars. So you didn't really give me a date range, but we'll just move on here. But you did consider Governor Barnes for this role. He's testified to that previously.
And let me tell you what Governor Barnes told me. Governor Barnes told me when he was the governor, he changed the state flag from the Confederate flag. And that as a result of him changing the Confederate flag to changing the flag to make it more inclusive to all Georgians, that the Ku Klux Klan sat outside his house and that he lived under threat during that time period. He told me that him and his beautiful wife had survived that, but that he was an older gentleman now. I'm going to say that nicely. He was an older gentleman, and due to the nuts that would come out of the woodwork if I was doing this type of work, that he was not at a juncture in his life where he could take those kind of security risks. He also refused to work for $250 an hour.
We've got some questioning here, Governor, on your rates, and we'll get to that in a little bit. You did, Madam DA, you considered several attorneys for this case in addition to Mr. Barnes?
I did.
And ultimately, you selected Mr. Wade to oversee the anti-corruption unit. Is that correct?
He never oversaw the
I'm
anti-corruption
sorry.
unit.
My apologies. To oversee the elections interference case.
To manage, yes.
How would you delineate manage versus my choice of oversee?
They're the same.
Okay. What happened between January 2021, I believe that's when the phone call was that you referenced, in November 2021, which was the time that Mr. Wade signed his first contract? What type of work happened within any area of your office in terms of gathering evidence or considering whether or not to bring these charges? So on your advice of counsel, you're asserting privilege.
It's got a microphone.
I'm clarifying with the witness. You can advise. You can absolutely advise your client, Governor Barnes. I'm asking your
I
client.
suggest you move on.
I'm
shit.
asking your client if you are
know what's
asserting
good for you,
privilege
move
on the
on.
answer to the question. What was the total cost of the election interference case?
I don't recall, but if we want to talk about cost, I'd love to talk about how last year alone the AG paid one lawyer $8 million.
You don't know what the cost of you don't know the cost of the election interference case?
I don't know the exact cost.
What's the range?
As I don't want to speculate to numbers. Whatever it cost, they tried to steal the rights of thousands of Georgians. It couldn't have been enough.
What was the rough total operating budget of your office last year?
I don't know that. It's probably around $40 million. That's a speculation and a guess. That includes state money, grant money, and that's not an exact number. I don't do the budget. I have very high-level conversations about that.
Okay. Can you give us a rough breakdown of that, the county budget and the state budget?
I cannot,
Source
and I'm
of
not
funds?
going to guess for you.
Does the federal government give you any money?
I do have some grants, yes.
The only source of federal money you get is from grants?
To my knowledge, I don't. There may be something else We may have some federal seizure money. If we do, it's not much. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate. If I say, oh, they gave me grant money and this federal seizure money, and you find some line item someplace that I don't know, you'll swear I was trying to lie to you when the truth is I don't know the correct answer.
I'm just trying to get to, I know you run a tight ship over there, you're proud of your work. I would assume that you would have
I'm the
some
best
sort of-
DA in the Southeast. Why wouldn't I be proud of my work?
What's your annual budget?
I told you it's around $40 million, but I do not know an exact number.
And what's the approximate source of funds that you receive from the state versus the county?
Me, like every other district attorney in this state, do not receive enough funds. I told you that you all pay 20 to 25 ADAs. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. You pay two legal assistants and one investigator. Now, Fulton County is 1,000,002 people. It's the place that when people come to Georgia, they're coming is to Atlanta. On a daily basis, we have 5 million people, and we are very improperly funded. If this committee wants to do some real work, it'll get serious about crime fighting among this state. From every rural community to
Madam DA,
I'm answering my question.
I'm good. That's not an answer to the question.
Okay, well, if this committee wants to get serious about legislation to make the communities in the state of Georgia safer, they will invest more money in every district attorney's office across this state. That's the rural DAs need more, the middle size, the residential, and the big cities like Atlanta. All of us need more resources to be able to do our job appropriately, and it is a joke the way that these people are funded that are dedicating their lives to public service. Also, I want to go back to, because this is extremely important and you have the power to do it, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations cannot test rape
I did not ask
kids.
you for advice on what the legislature
You asked
should do. We will get to that time. And if she would answer the question, Governor, I would not be saying it. She's pontificating on everything from rape kits, which was what she was about to get into. The question was the amount of money that came from state funds and county funds. And if she doesn't know the answer to that question, the answer is I don't know. The question isn't let me talk. The answer isn't let me talk about rape kits. So I'll get back to the line of question. I'm going to give you latitude here, Madam DA, but same way in a courtroom. There are guardrails as to what we need to stay in and within. Indeed, Governor, and this is not a courtroom. I have plenary power, Governor, to conduct the meeting. Absolutely. Governor.
We know the motives. He's on the ballot.
Governor, this is a hearing of the Senate Special Committee on Investigations. We're going to go on to our next question. How are the funds? You say that we give you the money, and I know that's a loose term, and that flows into the Fulton County coffers, so to speak, and when you remit payment, you do that through the Fulton County accounting system. Is that correct?
Your question was compound. I didn't understand.
Sure. I'll try to break that down. When checks are written as a result of a check request made by your office, those checks are paid by Fulton County. Is that correct?
I don't 100% accurate, so I'm going to refrain from it. What I can tell you is that, and probably happens in every other circuit, the district attorney has control over their budget and they don't have to go to the county. But I understood I was a woman DA coming in the office. I also understood that I was African American, and so therefore there would always be a target on my back. And so I did two things financially. One is I've never, so people can stop requesting, had a credit card associated with that office. Never. So I've never had a credit card, will never have a credit card. The other thing I did is that there is a CFO of Fulton County, a white female. Her name is Sharon Whitmore. I believe you've heard from her.
Doesn't matter she
So
what.
I made it so that the procedures of my office, although I did not have to do it, that it has to go through her for clearance. That way, nobody would say the district attorney stole any money.
Okay, that gets to the core of my question. So when you're paying vendors, when you're paying contractors, that's going through, I think you said her name was Miss Whitmore, and she did testify before the committee. What I'm getting to, and I'm trying to figure out, is whether when the state funds come in, the federal funds come in, the county funds come in, are those paid for out of separate accounts, or those funds kind of commingled into a general budget, if you will, and that gets allocated?
I really couldn't answer the question. There's many different pots of money from the county. The state directly pays those state employees. Then they get another check from the county, the ones that don't make enough from the state. I really can't fully answer your question of all the ways. I have a team that I call my deputy. I have a deputy of operations and a team that does that kind of stuff. But there's some money from the county. There's some money from the state. The grant money I know goes through the state. The truth is I don't have any grants. Fulton County has grants, but those grants do benefit my office. My Saki unit is renowned. I'm ending the year with a 100% conviction rate on special victim division.
Okay.
Saki is a sexual assault kit initiative. Georgia, like many states, failed victims, mainly victims of color. And so rape kits for years, going back to the 80s, were not tested. So we have a grant with the federal government that,
But they didn't have the technology.
and I'm talking about thousands of rape kits, where they go and they test those rape kits. What we have found is if they would have done those jobs and believed those victims, that many of those rape kits go back to serial rapists. They also go back to people that have committed other crimes. I have excellent attorneys that are in that unit, some that I pay out of the grant, some that I add with my general fund. And as I said, not just my Saki unit, but my crimes against children unit, my Saki unit, my sexual assault unit, my human trafficking unit. We're ending the year with 100%.
So just yes or no on these,
So-
we'll move quickly on to the next topic. You said you do not have a county credit card or a DA credit card.
Absolutely not. So y'all can say I stole some money.
Is there any sort of DA checking account that's separate that you use to pay your vendors or anything like that, or is it all go through the county?
I really can't answer that, so I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. You mentioned forfeiture funds before. Do you have a ballpark of how much you've received? I think you said it was a small number of state forfeiture funds.
No, I said federal.
Okay.
I don't think there's much in the federal forfeiture account.
Do you receive state forfeiture funds?
I do.
Approximately how much a year is that in an average year?
I don't know the number to that. I can tell you I have sitting in abeyance. I just did a huge forfeiture, but it's not money we can touch yet. It's a couple $1 million.
Okay. What's your understanding of the allowed uses of state forfeiture funds?
Oh, if I don't know the use of a forfeiture money, I talk to lawyers in the office. I'll go to PAC. I don't touch forfeiture money unless I get some approval.
Do you know of any delineation between the allotment, the allowance of uses between state forfeiture funds
Yeah, there's
and
definitely
federal?
rules around. There's definitely rules.
I was asking about the difference between federal and state, if there's any rules there.
There are rules to both, and I don't know I can't tell you the rules for each. Anytime we were going to make an expenditure, we would look at.
By the way, tonight, many people have told me there is a Trump address to the nation. I'm going to stream that on Ickenmel Clips and Rumble and everywhere else. But I'm going to do Ickenmel Clips so I can save notifications on the main channel. So in case you're looking for me, it's going to be just type Ickenmel Clips on YouTube. But Rumble and everywhere else, same page. Okay. She got an attitude. I've never been fond of the lady. I thought the first one that I saw the other time was really kind of funny. This one has some moments too. I don't know. Are they going to find anything on her? Have they found anything on her? I guess it's just questioning. And they're still going because they ended up taking like a lunch break. And then they came back. I guess this is like an all-day thing. So I'm probably going to maybe skip a little forward.
At it, I'm sure.
Do you know if those funds are commingled at all within your system?
I don't know it, but I would believe not.
Okay. Who is it? You mentioned that you've got people. Who is it that oversees the use of forfeiture funds in the office?
It's going to be the county that goes. Stuff is going to go back to the county.
Okay. And do you know whether or not any forfeiture funds were used to pay Mr. Wade?
I'm not aware of that. We would have submitted the invoices to the county. The county would have used one of those mini line items. They would have paid them.
Can you think of a reason why forfeiture funds would be used to pay Mr. Wade?
I guess he's,
Don't ask, she just told you that she doesn't know, so.
yeah, you were asking me to speculate.
You do not know whether Mr. Wade was paid with state forfeiture funds or not?
You're asking me to speculate.
No, I'm asking if you know whether or not state forfeiture,
I'm-
any forfeiture funds were used.
I'm unaware of that.
Okay.
I'm unaware if the answer is yes. I'm unaware if the answer is no.
I don't know. Plead the fifth. I
What
don't
I'm
know.
aware of is the process was turn in a bill and they would do it. You and Jim Jordan working together?
I've never talked to Mr. Jordan.
Okay. Also, as far as the Boston University, there is supposed to be an update today, but they don't know exactly what time. The last 2 days it's been at 5 p.m. They're saying that so far, let's say news conference has been held at 5 p.m. the last 2 days, though the mayor's office has not yet said whether that will be again today. Okay. We'll see. I'll jump on if it happens or when it happens and whatever time. We'll jump on. I'd probably think maybe around the same time, 5 or 6 p.m. And they did post a new picture, though, of the suspect. Let me just show you real quick for those that are... I know there's people that are really interested in that case. They released this recently, today. That's... Oh, no, not the suspect. This is actually, they're saying somebody else. This is... So there's a person of interest... Wait, what the fuck? I don't know. Is the suspect, and then there's a person of interest, I think? Providence police have released photos of a different person they want to talk to related to the Brown University shooting. They say the individual shown in these photos was in the proximity of the person of interest. So this is like, I guess, another person of interest. I guess maybe that's the best way to word it, but not necessarily like the shooter. I remember yesterday they said to people, this almost looks like a woman. Doesn't it look like a woman? In other words, they have no clue. I guess we're going to have to just let the sleuths do what the sleuths do, and I guess there's going to be another casualty of online sleuthing, maybe today or tomorrow.
Just
I don't know
want to
about
point
that.
this,
Anybody who doesn't report people that get raped in college, I'm going to have to disagree
just
with you
want to
there,
point this
Governor.
out here. This is, do you recognize the bottom form here? Fulton County Court Payment Voucher.
I don't.
Is this you've never seen any document in this format before?
Never.
Okay. Well, this shows a number of things here. It shows what fund it was paid from here, which is 440, which is your the forfeiture fund account. You can see at the top the unit name, confiscated funds for this invoice, and then here you can see that this was a payment made, and I apologize, you can't see my mouse. On the left side there, right in the middle, you can see that this was a payment made to the law office of Nathan Wade. In reviewing for your testimony today, we just did review the bills and look through different sources of funds that were used to pay Mr. Wade. I know you weren't, your testimony is you were not aware that forfeiture funds were used. We saw Mr. Wade was paid from forfeiture funds and from the county general fund, which is Fund 100. And that's why I was getting to the uses of forfeiture funds to pay independent contractors. Do you have any knowledge of any restrictions that may be around the concept of using forfeiture funds to pay independent contractors?
I do not. It was my understanding that Mr. Wade was paid out of my professional services budget.
Okay. What's the accounting process? Again, that's kind of what I was getting to earlier. Of kind of, if it was your understanding he was paid out of the professional services budget, that would intimate that there's some sort of accounting procedure within either your office or the county office where there are separate fund allocations. And I asked you if your funds were commingled and everything was paid out of the same, or if there were dedicated accounts. So you were unaware that Mr. Wade was paid, and you, out of the forfeiture funds, you believe he was paid out.
Are safer because I make them.
In the in your prior testimony with Miss Ashley Merchant, there was conversation around what she referred to as block billing. How would you describe block billing?
Oh, let's talk about Miss Merchant.
Let's just talk about block billing, please.
We're not.
No, we're going to get her ass.
I've
Get
opened the
her.
question to block billing.
Who's Miss Merchant?
The credibility of whoever's saying it is an issue.
Well, then let's just
So I'd like to talk about what this committee did the last time we were here, and for the press, I will have 50 copies of this so each person can get a copy. You all, the last time y'all had a committee meeting, you all purported this lie that I had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris. The
question's
Me?
about block
No, I'm
billing,
going to
Madam
answer
DA.
this question right now. And when you stated that, you stated that it was me and it was Mayor Dickens. And then
I'm
you
scared.
put this exhibit up for the entire world to see. How disingenuous, how lacking of integrity for Ms. Merchant as an attorney to put it up, and for Cowsert, who I noticed is cowardly not here, to have it here. This clearly says, I'm at a Black History Month project. Almost every important Black elected official across the country was invited to it. I'm on the lawn with a cocktail, and yet y'all tell the world I was sitting down with the vice president having a meeting. It was a damn lie. And this is the evidence of it. And y'all had the audacity to put it up on a screen as if you were showing something other than the DA was having a cocktail on the lawn. I have never even had the honor of meeting Vice President Kamala Harris. Never.
How would you define block billing?
Oh, he just bypassed.
Like somebody he didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
Oh! Ah!
When I refer you to the screen,
Jesus.
these
I
are
don't review those documents, so you're asking me to look at documents that I haven't for the first time. What I can tell you is that I
I'll give
only
you time to
allowed
review the
Mr. Wade to
documents.
bill 160 hours a week, and then Mr. Wade would be the first one in the office making sure that my staff arrived. He corrected their behavior. They thought that 8:30 meant 8:30. He taught them that 8:30 means 7:45. He got there before them. He left after him. He taught them how to do this case, and he was a leader to that team and a public servant. And for that, him like me has been threatened thousands of times. You want something to investigate as a legislature? Investigate how many times they've called me the N-word. Why don't you investigate that? Why don't you investigate them writing on my house? Why don't you investigate the fact that my house has been swatted? If you want something to do with your time that makes sense. And you can use all this in your campaign ad. You attacked Fani Willis. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
I'm going to refer you to the screen.
Yeah.
I know you said you don't approve.
I don't look at this.
review
I've never
these
seen it,
bills.
so I can't talk to you about documents I don't approve and don't review. Can't talk to you about it.
Who does approve the documents in your office when invoices come in?
I thought we'd been through this.
I don't believe you said who reviews the invoices and approves the invoices in your
First
office.
of all, I have no firsthand knowledge of it.
You have no
You
firsthand
want me to
knowledge of-
testify about something I don't have any firsthand knowledge of?
I'm asking
Are you asking me to speculate? Because I've
Yeah.
clearly told
Speculate.
you
Hearsay.
I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it, and I'm not going to speculate.
Uh-oh.
The question is, when an invoice comes into your office from a special assistant district attorney, what is the review process for that invoice before it's paid?
She's answered. She said she has a deputy of operations, and he reviews, or she reviews, and then it goes through the county. So it's a repetitive question.
What's the name of the deputy of operations?
The question has been asked and answered, and I believe it goes straight to the county, so I'm not sure. Dexter Bond.
Okay. Do you know who ATG may be, initials within your office?
I don't.
I would assume that it's accurate to say it's probably not Dexter Bond.
I don't. It may be somebody at the county.
What we're looking at here are two bills that were paid by and approved by your department. The one on the left is from the Cross firm, which refers to Anna Cross that we referenced earlier. The one on the right is invoice number 11 from Nathan
Who
Wade.
did it?
And the first thing that
Let me tell you why this is such a
the
damn
first
joke.
thing that jumps out to me
Oh, shit.
as a non-lawyer, but as someone who has paid lawyer bills before, and I believe this gets to the question, the question which was around block billing. And here's my question for you, Madam DA. Are there rules in your contracts or otherwise when you hire independent contractors that gets to the billing methodology for your attorneys? In other words, are they allowed to always bill to the even hour, or is there a professional
True American
expectation that they would bill to the 10th? Or
Let me tell you
quarter-
something. I
quarter
had
hour?
3 attorneys working with me that had integrity. For you to insinuate that a judge that sat for 10 years and was the head of the magistrate court judges that they did something illegal. They were underpaid. I have here documents where in one annual year, because I want you to remember his bills were over the course of 3 years, in one annual year made $8 million, made $5 million. And I'm going to make sure that the press has that so that when you're asking me about this great service to the state of Georgia, that it is understood that these are more than reasonable, actually bargain basement amounts. Ms. Cross would insist that I wrote government rate in her contract because she didn't want anyone to get confused that she would actually work for this rate, but for the fact that it was service to her community. So I don't know what we're talking about here, but to insinuate these 3 lawyers that have great integrity, have served this community well, did something unethical, I don't know why we're having this conversation. I don't know anything about the whatever you're talking about.
The state of Georgia allocates funding to your office.
They hire those 25 lawyers, yes.
And we are trying to, the questioning here is relative to the approval process of invoices that are paid by your office. You have testified that that is done by Dexter Bond, that you're unaware of who this ATG is that signed off on this. We'll move on to a further line of questioning here.
You know, old men have to go to the bathroom about every hour.
Governor, would you like a 5-minute recess?
You gotta go. Let's see if we catch any other snippets. But I'll probably later on, too, I'll look for some highlights and clips posted on X, if there's anything else. So there's supposed to be 2 things that's happening later. Just for a reminder, at some point, I don't know what time yet, they haven't said, but the Brown University shooting, some type of update, I guess, press conference later. And then tonight, Trump's announcement. I'm not sure what he's announcing. I'm not sure what's going on. But some type of announcement tonight. And then whatever else happens in between, I guess.
Question here.
And it is relevant since you're questioning the rate of the special prosecutor.
That's for the press.
All right, I want to refer your attention to the screen. Ma'am, have you seen this letter before?
It's got my signature on it.
Do you have seen this letter before?
Yes, that's how it got signed.
You sent this letter on December 17th, 2021, requesting access to documents from the January 6th committee, Chairman Mr. Representative Thompson, is that correct?
I did.
Okay. Did you or anyone in your office receive help in your investigation from the January 6th commission?
What do you mean by help?
Did they send you documents?
Well, they're public documents now.
Did they send you any documents that were not public? That were not public at the time?
None that I can recall. None that I can recall.
In the letter, you offer to meet them in person. Did they take you up on the offer to meet in person?
I've never met Thompson.
Have you ever met anyone that was doing work with the January 6th Commission?
Not to my knowledge. I may have met them and not known they were doing that work.
Mr. Wade traveled to D.C. with members of your staff, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Wade billed for conference calls with the January 6th committee, is that correct?
Haven't looked at the bills.
What difference does that make?
On the left side of the screen here, and I apologize, the camera's in your way, there's a screen over here.
You'll have to remember the criminals that I
Easier to
indicted,
see.
they had committed crimes all over the country. And so as a result, as a prosecutor, if you know that a criminal has done crimes in this state and other states, it would almost not be due diligence to try to get information from them. Here goes some more legislation you can take up. There is a process called TUI with the federal government where state prosecutors try to get information from federal prosecutors. They are not very helpful.
On this bill, on the left-hand side, the first red
I haven't
highlight.
seen the bill, sir. You remember?
That's why I'm showing it to you, Madam DA. It says team meeting, conference with January 6th, research legal issues to prep, and then it ends with V. He testified, and the testimony is on the right side of the screen that meant interview. And then the second one is travel out of state, interview and research, which was from April 27th until April 29th. Are you aware of a trip that Mr. Wade took out of state that your office paid for in April of 2022?
Yes.
What was the purpose of the trip?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I'm sure to get information on some of the criminals I ended up indicting.
This slide here shows essentially a reimbursement request on the right-hand side for Mr. Wade at the Hyatt Place Hotel. And on the left-hand side, this is an invoice for the Hyatt Place Hotel during the time period I referenced earlier for a Mr. Michael Hill. Do you know who Michael Hill is?
He was an assistant chief when he left my office. He's an investigator, though, a sworn law enforcement officer.
And he was on your staff during April of 2022? You said when he left your office. When did he leave the office?
I don't remember. But yes. Yes to the first question. He was on my staff at that time. I don't remember to the second question of when did he leave. Not long ago, he got a higher title at another office.
Do you know who else from your office attended this trip?
I can't recall. You can refresh my recollection if you like.
This is an invoice for the same hotel on the same dates from Mr. Francis. I assume it's Mr. Wakeford. Is that someone that worked in your staff?
An amazing attorney.
What was his role?
He's an attorney.
What did he do what work did he do within your department, your team?
He does all types of work, but he is what I would consider to be an appellate lawyer.
Did he do work on the elections interference case?
Absolutely.
What work did he do on the election interference case?
He did a lot of excellent writing.
This slide here is for Mr. John Wooten, same hotel, same dates, same trip to D.C. Do you know John Wooten
He works for me.
currently?
Yes.
What was his role in April of 2022?
A lawyer, works for my office, does a lot of white-collar crime for me.
Did work on the election interference case?
Yep.
Okay. So is it safe to assume from both the testimony I had on the screen, your letter, and Mr. Wade's invoices that reference January 6th, is it safe to assume that Mr. Wade and other members of your staff went to D.C. in furtherance of your investigation of the 2022 election? 2020 election.
I'm not going to make assumptions under oath.
You are unaware of whether or not members of your staff, 4 of them that we have here so far, or 3 and 1 independent contractor, you're unaware as to whether or not the purpose of their D.C. trip was to meet with the January 6th committee or members of the January 6th committee or lawyers working for the J6 committee.
I know that they went to D.C., and I know it was in reference to this investigation. I do not recall who they spoke with, but you all have tried to make this some nefarious thing that lawyers would try to investigate and find out information about people who came to Georgia and committed crimes. And instead of being honorable and trying to defend those people that you take an oath to serve, we're here with this foolishness.
Do you know how many trips Mr. Wade took to D.C.?
In his life?
As it relates to the J6 committee or the 2020 elections interference case?
I believe one, but I don't know. It's speculation.
Well, it wouldn't be speculation if he had told you about it. Did he tell you about any other trips that he took?
But what you have to remember is it is whatever day it is in December of 2025, and I'm an office that prosecutes 64,000 people, and I know you are somewhat offended that I had the audacity to prosecute, these folks that came into my county and committed crimes. But this wasn't special to me. This was another day of business.
On the screen is another invoice from Mr. Wade, the highlighted section. I'll just read it out loud. It says January 6th meeting and ATTY Conf. That's from November 16th of 2022. And then there is a second entry immediately below that, interview with DC/White House, November 18, 2022. Have you seen this bill?
No.
Are you aware of phone calls or conferences that Mr. Wade either attended or was a part in that relates to the J6 committee or the election interference case, working with the J6 committee that is separate from the April trip that we just discussed?
We didn't do much work with a J6 committee, so I've never seen this bill before. And I believe the only thing that we called the White House about was, did we have to go through the TUI process with that White House like we have to do with the Department of Justice. That's my recollection. That could be right or wrong, but we were trying to speak to people in the Trump administration, the first one. So I don't believe we had a lot of contact with the White House. So I'm not aware.
You said you were trying to speak with people that were part of the first Trump administration in these travels to D.C., or are you saying that more generally?
More generally.
Okay. And just to clarify, I want to make sure that I have the record correct here. You're unaware of who Mr. Wade.
I can't recall those level of details. I know you want to take me back to 1948, where an African American prosecutor can only prosecute certain types of people, but I prosecute and stand up for all victims that come into my circuit.
When was the special purpose grand jury impaneled?
I don't remember the date, but that's an interesting point. 2 grand juries said these people did these crimes.
The date that I have
And the
is
grand jury was made up of independents, Democrats, Republicans. 2.
the date that I have is January 24th of 2022. Does that seem like it's within the range of being the correct date?
So I already stated I don't trust you. I understand you're trying to run for lieutenant governor right now. Anything you want me to testify to, I'm going to need to see.
Okay. Were you aware that in between the time of the special grand jury being sworn in and receiving evidence, Mr. Wade traveled to Athens, Georgia to meet with officials from the White House counsel's office?
I don't recall.
On the right-hand side here is the meeting that I reference. The highlighted section reads, travel to Athens, conf with White House.
How does this
counsel.
assist you in developing laws for Georgia? Because I believe the purpose that I'm here for is because you all need assistance in doing your job, and you want assistance with rules and regulations around how people should be a prosecutor. And it made sense to me that you'd come to the best prosecutor in the state to ask for some advice. But I'm confused as to how this assists you and what the purpose of me being here is.
The committee has a broad purpose. I'd be happy to refer to counsel as to the overall purpose of the committee. But my question for you is, as it relates
I don't
to this
think it's
travel-
relevant, so I'm objecting on relevance.
She's asked and answered that. She's told you that the TUI process goes through the White House counsel's office. She's asked, it's been asked and answered.
And it's your testimony today that the travel to Athens, conference with the White House counsel, as far as you were aware, was due to a part of this TUI process that the governor's referencing.
I've testified. I don't recall anything about this.
Okay.
And I don't see how it's relevant to what your alleged purpose is. Now, your real purpose is to try to get elected, which I would say, Georgia, please, let's elect any lieutenant governor but this one.
We'll get to your work trying to elect lieutenant governors in a second, Madam DA, but for now we're talking about the
I've done
the
no
travel
work with
to
an
DC.
elected governor, but if I will do some work with this. I see that Counselor left you
contracts.
alone today,
I'm not
and
gonna-
he is running to be Attorney General of this state,
Madam DA,
and
we're gonna
he is
answer
not
the question.
qualified to be such. By record, by this document where he put up a false document trying to prove that I met with the vice president, that shows you he does not have ethics. But there is
Madam-
somebody running for Attorney General that has been a state prosecutor, a federal prosecutor, a civil rights attorney, and a state's legislature. So if people want to vote for people that are ethical and actually have the experience to do the job, I'd say go donate now to Tanya Miller.
Madam DA, I've asked you about Mr. Wade. Did you speak with anyone that had worked with the January 6th committee or was a lawyer for the J6 committee?
That's been asked and answered. She said she's never done it herself. That's what she testified.
Did you communicate with members of the J6 committee through any intermediaries that relayed messages back and forth on your behalf?
I don't recall ever speaking to anyone of the January 6th committee. What you asked me, though, is have I ever met someone? I am a public official. I meet people all over this country all the time. Shake hands, take pictures, kiss babies, all the things elected officials do. So I have no idea if I've ever met someone that may have been part of the January 6th committee.
And I want, what is J6? Is that where they stormed the Capitol?
And killed a police officer?
Killed a police officer so that it's clear on the record.
The ones that have been exonerated, we say that we stand with law enforcement, but don't care when police officers get killed.
We're going to continue on to the next question. Governor, you are here to advise your counsel. You're not here to pontificate. Absolutely.
Absolutely irrelevant, everything that you're trying to say.
How does this help you for laws? Yes, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry, Governor.
If you've got something to ask it, but don't go into, well, there must have been a conspiracy here when they went up and looked into the folks that broke into the Capitol in shamu suits or whatever that was, and put the Vice President of the United States out saying, hang Mike Pence, and that they were prosecuted and then pardoned by President Trump, and you're trying to say and infer that it was illegal, immoral to investigate that was part of a pending case. So
We're asking questions relative to the investigation, Governor. We're going to move on to the next question.
what you're trying to infer some wrongdoing where none exists. Ask the question, let's move on.
Thank you for
Also
thank
to
you,
divide this
Governor. We're
country,
gonna-
and it should be noted that there
we're
were
gonna move on to the
many
next
great,
question.
honorable Republicans that brought this case to me because they knew what happened was wrong. One of them is Duncan, who's now running for governor.
So you have your endorsement?
I do
Probably
think it should
wise,
be
Governor.
noted that although you
Oh shit. My audio went out, pimping. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to catch you later. I will be back. All right. I love you guys. Bye. We'll do the Brown University, and we'll do